Hello, hello, and welcome everybody to another beautiful episode of Love It or Shove It. Believe it or not, it's our episode number 23. And our today's topic is going to be about toxic love, recognizing and breaking free from unhealthy relationship. And today I'm here, Irina Portnova, in the studio with my co-host Bruno Gill, and we have the guest Endre Hoffmann with us. And Andrew, welcome and tell a little bit about yourself.
Hey, thanks very much. I'm the Doctor of Self-Worth. I'm so happy to be here and share probably some stories that could change your life. You want
That's
me to?
beautiful.
Awesome.
Yeah, and it just like your title, Doctor of Self-Worth, just kind of speaks to itself. And let's just dive in. What is that toxic love? Let's just define what exactly do we mean when we say that there is a toxicity to the relationship, there is a toxicity to love. What exactly does it bring for you, Andrew?
And I have two ways to tell you. I have seen my mom and dad for 35 years. My dad was aggressive. He was fearful. He was criticizing my mom. And as the aggressor, my mom has become the peacemaker. And he never had the balls to say, didn't have enough in her to leave this relationship. So she basically decided to stay together for the sake of the children. So what I've seen for all my childhood is a victim mom who has been trying to do everything just to please my dad. And of course, seeing this, I have become a victim as well. Unfortunately, I lost my sense of self-worth and self-confidence because I was trying to gain my father's love. He had rules. He didn't even know how to express his love. And with all the criticism that I received, I unfortunately was so shy. I couldn't speak up. I couldn't speak in front of people. I didn't know who I was. I ended up working in banking, and I was seeking probably myself for the next 34 years. Try and regain, to rebuild myself, my self-confidence. That took me to 70 countries, traveling, looking for spiritual gurus and religions, hoping to find the answers, of course, outside of myself, Rome, and living in 4 countries. And eventually 6 years ago, I have transformed with a mindset coach, was able to open these doors in my head, and that has started the path or this brand of the Doctor of Self-Worth.
Thank you so much. That's a beautiful share. And what it brings for me, the way you were describing, just let's talk about so toxic love. It's basically sometimes it's not so obvious for us to see the signs, but let's talk about the red flags, right? And one of the red flag is the lack of respect. That's exactly what was going on in the relationship of your dad and mom, because dad was controlling the situation. He was the one in charge. So he was allowing himself to act as he pleases, knowing that as your mom is more peaceful person, the one who is gonna be actually trying to soothe the corners, right, to make it more livable. And that's exactly like the red flags would be like lack of respect, lack of boundaries, also when people control or try to manipulate you, also the conflict, right? Constant conflict, because people are looking, they are picking up all these fights out of nowhere, because obviously when the person is not happy themselves, they try to make everybody miserable around themselves. And
Yes.
obviously the abuse, right? We talk about emotional abuse and we talk about the physical abuse. Bruno, what does it come for you?
Yeah, I mean, like I'm lucky and blessed that I don't remember having like any sort of like physical abuse in my family. But the reality is that like there was a lot of emotional abuse. um, and because like even for example the people who've done that, right, they may not believe it and they still feel, and they're the ones who probably feel like a victim because they don't understand the amount of pain they caused to the person. But the reality is that the people who suffer, like for example me, that's why I'm talking about it, um, we, because that's the thing, like for example I grew up without a father, right? So the male model wasn't even there, right? So there was my mom, right, a woman who was trying to do everything by herself, trying to be as feminine as she could, but every time she tried, her masculine side would have to come out because she didn't really had much of a chance, right? When she was she would be masculine all the way until we were comfortable, and then when she was just releasing her shell of being feminine, boom, masculinity would come out because she had to, like life would force her to be on her masculine, right? So very rarely I remember my mom like um being on her like kind of soft side. So like while I was growing up, yes, my mom used to be very soft. Well, depends, right? Depends. There were times where like um there was very toxic moments. Unfortunately, I end up remembering more bad than good because of what left out of that bad and that good. Right, the panic and the anxiety uh, was so much more triggering, and it left such a scar that outweigh any type of like love and positivity that came from the good ones. Right, like because when you're growing up, it's like, who am I living with? Like, who are you? Right? You try to get to know your parents the better, right? But it's like that's the thing. Like while I grew up, I kind of like saw my mom as kind of an enemy, right? Because what was always sticking with me was always like the bad, right? Because that's what would mark you the most. That's what would trigger you the most, right? That's what makes your emotional nervous system, your emotional behavior, your subconscious, your conscious remember the most, right? And then if you give importance to that, you're a kid and you don't understand it, right? So yeah, I mean, like physically no, but there was a lot of like emotional abuse, um, because I think like the worst about it is when, and now in general, right? I think like when parents bring the problems from the outside into the inside, and the people who least deserve it, they take it, right? That's when the majority of the emotional abuse comes, right? Um, for example, my mom, like she had a very strict education. Me too, not as strict as she had, but the strict education that she had nowadays would be considered abuse because because that's the truth. Like my mom told me stuff that my grandma kind of like did when she was young. That like nowadays I'm like, that's abuse. That's not that no, that's abuse. What surprises me is like it comes from a place like in my mind, right? And I still feel that because it comes from a place of love. And it's amazing how damaging it can be, but how you expect the intentions to be, effective because that's all that you know. It's not for me, in my opinion, is like, and to kind of wrap up my part now so I can pass it on. But like, it's not really the kid's fault to take with that. It's then the kid's fault when they grow up and they have kids to then do the same thing because you're not a kid anymore. Now you're an adult. You make your own choices, right? So you should be strong enough, and it's a reality. You should, right? It's like you should be strong enough to know that, like, no matter what happens, I'm not gonna kind of like raise my kid the way I did, or even if I'm gonna do that, I'm not gonna be as extreme as my parents were, right? But yeah, no, it's just like yeah. I mean, it's just yeah. That's really kind of it for me. No.
Thanks for sharing. I think what comes down to is the point of awareness, right? Because whether the parents or the partners, everybody is different from their level of awareness, right? Who is more aware? That the person who start self-reflect, who start to notice things that like all that nature of, that abuse, that control, right? They can feel it. And the person who is in the situation of the abuser, actually they have like a blindfold. They don't actually treat the way that, like they think the way they act is normal. They think they are correct. They think that this is the right way to behave. And I've been also in the situation where I felt that I was overpowered. I felt that I was controlled, although thinking that I'm a very strong person by nature. And again, it's all about the awareness. Because when we are not aware, we take things the way as they come, and always like trying to look where is my fault. Like I never tried to see that this is the other person's fault. I was always taking it personally, like, like, okay, you are this and you are that. And then I was like reflecting and thinking, yeah, he's right. Because obviously, like I failed whatever I was thrown to be blamed for, right? So I felt that, relationship, I felt that partnership, I didn't come out the way he was expecting me to be. And, like to the point where I was belittled and I didn't feel like, like my voice matters.
Yeah.
And obviously there was, thanks God, there was no physical abuse, but there was a lot of emotional abuse. And it's difficult to kind of live with that day by day. And obviously you have to have the strong, mindset and stamina just to go through that, because a lot of times, obviously, it's going to end up costing you a lot of health issues, right? It could have you been depressed, right? You feel like you're not worthy, and obviously, it all could come up from that hot and cold treatment. When people, like I said, they're acting from their level of awareness and they think they are right. And they think they have that right to treat you this way, right? So we are talking about how important it is to have the boundaries and not allowing somebody to step over those boundaries and do things to you that you are not going to be happy about.
Yeah, exactly.
So, Andrew, what does it bring for you? Because we were just having the conversation before getting on live, and you said that you had a couple of clients who were dealing with that toxicity. Just shed some light, and like what were the signs? Because obviously sometimes people live so many years before they finally kind of stand up for themselves and realize this is not the way to live the life, because there is so much better in life.
Yeah, before I go into these client examples, I have experienced quite a full spectrum of these abuses, emotional as well, as my dad was angry and had his own psychological issues that he could not resolve. And one sign is when you feel not enough or not good enough, that you feel you have to act certain ways to be loved. That would be absolutely it. And in my case, it has become physical abuse. So we had 3 massive fights with my dad when we almost pulled a knife, and my mom separated us in the kitchen, where I could not anymore. At age 14, I couldn't take anymore the way he was suppressing my mom. And obviously the real telltale, I would say, what you really want to watch out for is your emotions. How do you feel when you allow yourself to feel? Because emotions will tell you if you are being exposed to abuse or domestic violence. Unfortunately, in my case, I wasn't aware of what domestic violence is, and I didn't know I was exposed to it for most of my childhood, because it was fairly standard in some of my family and even friends' families. What it requires you to do is sometimes to have a reset on that relationship, and that's what I'm working with two of my clients now, who have been unaware of the abuse they have received. But obviously human spirit cannot take. After a while there comes a point when it's enough. And with these clients, there are children, and as I started to rebuild these women's self-worth and self-confidence, now they are, unfortunately, they are not able to rebuild this relationship. These people, these males, are so egoistic. They went down far away to the extremity. But these women now, they have enough courage to step out of this relationship and rebuild their lives outside of this prison cell. And my mom could never do this. I've seen her, unfortunately, making peace, people please, all along to have this family together. And I would say it was a waste of time, because I've seen my mom as a victim for most of the years, and in some ways I have unfortunately taken on that victimhood in many personal relationships, and I was not aware of how I have become part of those personal relationships where I was exposed to the same thing. So if you're a parent and you are not able to step out and step on your toes and really move on, unfortunately, you are passing this on to your children, because it doesn't matter what you're trying to teach. It's how you treat yourself and how you behave is your real teaching in life.
That's so beautiful. And it just, again, it comes to the point that there is always help around us. But this is something that, again, people are not aware of, right? They know only about the counselor or the, therapist. But there are also coaches like Endre who help people to deal with this. And obviously, once you go through that empowerment, you're not going to be able to influence by anybody else, because that's what happened to these women, right? They get courage and they become empowered and they just move on. They become very brave. They don't codepend anymore. They know that there is a better life for them. And again, like going back to your family, right? Like your mom was staying in this kind of abusive relationship just for the kids. And it's also for somebody who might be listening and resonating with that, don't ever stay just for the children, because you are showing children a bad example, because the children are going to think that this is a normal way of the relationship. And that's exactly the dynamic that they're going to be carrying into their own lives. And this is also very, very unhealthy. So it's good to actually pay attention at these things and actually looking for the help, be more mindful and aware.
Yeah, I remember now because my dad couldn't handle himself, and his release was drinking. So we ended up in these drinking parties, but on the way home, he had to drive. So he rolled the car with the whole family in it. And then he went back and drive again. So don't wait until, you get to the point where there is no options left. And the women I'm helping now, they realized, this relationship was a dead end 10 years ago, because they pretty much tried everything under the sun to shift this wounded relationship, which unfortunately most of the time it comes from lack of self-worth, lack of confidence, and maybe copying someone else in the family who was a people pleaser, who was unfortunately a victim or exposed to a wounded person or a wounded relationship. Does this help?
Totally, yes. So let's talk a little bit about the psychological impact when we are staying in this kind of unhealthy relationship. What could happen to us? And obviously, we are talking about the decrease of self-esteem, right? Because the other person constantly is showing how worthy they are and that you are nobody in this connection. And obviously, people lose themselves completely. Bruno, what comes for you?
What comes from me is I was listening to you both, and honestly, I'm really liking this episode. It's being amazing. And what I was thinking is, I was thinking that like when I was thinking about my own mom, I was thinking that like she did it all right. She did all right, but not good enough. And the reality is that like, how do I explain? Well, let's say that again, like she could have done much better, simply by the fact that when you go from thinking that okay, yes, I have to be my best for my family, sure, fine, right? But to a point where I am going to not take my kid serious because what he feels important is not more important than what I believe it is, right? So when you feel like that your entire childhood, it's obvious that you're also going to become a victim because you see your own mom become behaving like one her entire life, right? When she simply could not accept the fact that life happens, right? But life happens because you make the wrong choices. So if you want the right choices, make the right choices, right? If you want the wrong stuff, do the wrong choices, right? And I think that like, how do I say it? It's just one of those things where like it's ultimately destructible because yes, there is no course for parenting, but there's clearly a better way to do stuff that parents don't know, and then they find an excuse that they don't know, and then they are the parents, and then you don't know my life because you're a kid, and then on and on and on and on, like the typical victim mentality, right? I think that parents, when like I think like parents can be the devil. I honestly like I tell you because that's the reality. I think like parents can really be the devil, and it's so toxic, so toxic, so toxic. It's unbelievable. It's really unbelievable how toxic it is. But you learn how to live with that, and it only makes you stronger. Because I realized that my childhood was pathetically dreadful because of my mom. My mother ruined my childhood. She ruined me completely. She did. She ruined me, and she knows that. And she still has attitudes nowadays, right? That prove that, right? Because she's not psychotic, although I thought she was when I was a child. But it's not that she doesn't want to be. She wants to tell the world to go fuck itself. She does, but she doesn't have the balls to do that, because at the end of the day, she has to fall in line with everybody in front of them, right? So, as much as I love my mom, and I do, I had this conversation with her, and she didn't want to change, right? So, if you can change people, change yourself, right? Because the reality is this: even if people don't believe that you changed, who cares? Right? That's their life. Right? That's their life. It's like you know how to do your you know how to do your job as a father or a mother. Congratulations. What do you want? You want a present? You want a unicorn? You want rainbow up your ass? No. You're doing your job, my friend. You're doing your damn job, right? And you could do more, but I mean, like, obviously you have your life and stuff, right? And the bare minimum that you could do for your kid is to go and watch his games, which my mom never did. My father was never there, anyways. Not that he was a saint. They're both fuck ups. My parents are both fuck ups, right? I think every parent's a fuck up. Honestly, I think every parent is a fuck up, because the reality is that like we grow up seeing our parents as idols, right? Some of us have that chance, some of us don't, right? Um, but they're still learning, right? They're always learning or growing. Or some parents just don't learn because their ego is too big to learn, right? So whatever. And it's just like, it's just one of those things where if I live with anger of my mom and my dad and stuff for the rest of my life, I'm gonna be miserable for the rest of my life. And I know I am. All of us, if all of us in here and all of us in the world, right? Every single person in the world. If people, like they don't overcome that and they just like, right, I forgive you for everything that you've done, and you don't see the good side in it, right? Because like, for example, in my case, like, believe it or not, I have all the traits of a no, I'm not saying this like to be full of myself. I'm literally being honest. Like, believe it or not, I have all the hyper successful traits that billionaires and millionaires do. And the number one success attribute is always this, like having this like superiority complex, which I do. I have no problem in admitting it. Honestly, I couldn't care. I have a superiority complex, right? Which, like, I'm better than everybody, and I can do this and I can do that, and I deserve it more than you. I don't care if you work more than me. I deserve it better than you. And I have that superiority complex, I do. But it's all because of my mom. Because when I was growing up, right, nothing was ever good. Fuck, man. Nothing was ever fucking enough. There was always something wrong, right? And even today is like that. Even like nowadays in the present is like that, right? So I always had to continuously prove I'm good enough. Am I now a good son? Do I now deserve of your love? Right? Stuff like that, right? That parents are like, well, you don't have a reason to say that. Yeah, but that's on you. That's you. That's you. You think like that. Don't expect me to behave like an adult when I'm a child, right? Don't expect me to behave like an adult when I'm a child. Don't expect to behave like a child while you being the adult. And guess what? You're behaving like a fucking child, right? Because that's what you are, a child, right? So it's just one of those things again where like you either move on from that, or you end up reacting this way that I just reacted, right? I'm showing you how not to be, right? So, or you can be like, you know what, like life is life, shit happens, right? Okay, fine. I didn't have the most beautiful upbringing in the world, but it wasn't as bad as whatever. I mean, I still had a roof, I still had water, I still had food, right? I mean, I still did what I wanted, right? It's not like something ever missed in the table, right? It's not like, whatever. So shit happens, right? And of course your parents would want you to react like that, so they can overcome the shame and the guilt and the lack of dignity they felt of being such fuckers. Sure, all right, whatever. But it's not about them, it's about you. It's about you as a person, right? It's about you. It's about like, don't stop thinking about people, right? Again, like I think it's Mike Tyson who said, and we were talking about this before. It's like, we are a friend of everybody. We are an enemy to ourselves, right? And I think it's the problem with people nowadays, especially with my mom. My mom was a friend of everybody while I was growing up, and she wasn't a friend of herself. She always did more for other people than she did for herself, and everybody fucked her over, right? And I learned with that. I saw the example. My mom would say, don't do this, don't do that, but fuck her once. She's showing me other things. Your kids learn with your actions, not with your words, right? Your kids learn with your actions, not with your words. So it's one of those things again where like overcome it. Believe in yourself, because you're not your father, you're not your mother, right? All that toxic love that you receive, even with friends, even with parents, even with love itself, you are you, my friend. You are you, right? And you are worthy of what you want anytime you want, because then you wouldn't be born, right? Don't let past experience define you. Let them shape you, let them build you, right? Whatever people say from the outside, usually the people closest to us are the ones who disappoint us the most anyways, right? But that's good, because if it touches on your emotions, it means it means it's like it's important for you, right? But it's all about channeling that 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 energy, right? And transforming it, right, into something really powerful for you, right? Yeah.
Thanks so much for sharing. You know what comes for me when you said, oh, there are no parental courses. Nowadays, it's so much more than we can imagine. And it's all about just, like open your mind and start looking for that help, right? Whether you're a parent, whether you're a partner, in this vast, beautiful world, there are all, like the coaches in different specialties. And these are the coaches who went through the same experience that you come to them for, meaning that they survived whatever they survived, they thrived, not only survived. So I think for people who really are opening their minds and who don't want to be staying in these toxic relationships, whether this is parents to child or partner to partner, right? There is always a way when you acknowledge that toxicity. This is like the first step, right? You acknowledge it, you understand that this is toxic, this is not normal, this is not healthy, and then you seek help. There is always help available, but it's a lot of times people just make the excuses because it's so much easier to be in the victim place rather than to step out and say, you know what, I'm going to be the hero because I want to be in charge of my life. I don't want another person to be in charge of what I can or cannot do. So obviously it takes courage. It takes stepping over the comfort zone, because a lot of people stay in these abusive relationships because they don't imagine the life by themselves. They are already getting like so comfortable. They think, okay, maybe it is an abuse, but this is the way I know that person. I know what kind of, things he's gonna say or do to me. Again, I'm talking he because I'm a woman, right? It could be vice versa, right? So it's all about just, like our human nature. We always stay in the comfort zone, and that's the comfort zone is like the enemy of our own progress, because we are not moving anywhere. We are not growing, we are not evolving, we are just staying. And it's like in a swamp, and it's like getting us, soaking us more and more into that. So the point is we come here to live and experience our life and be happy and like really experience the magic of this life. So there is no point just to stay and allow other people to, project their insecurities, their, like control issues, the blame that they want to give to us, because, like Bruno mentioned, sometimes a lot of people bring it from outside. Somebody got triggered by the boss, they bring it home. And then, like the person that's close to them becomes like a punch bag. So the point is, we always want to be in charge. We always want to be conscious, and we always want to be in control of ourselves. So even if we cannot control another person, but we could always control, how much we are going to take and where to set our boundaries. Because if the person is going to be playing by themselves, there is no fun in that. So they always look for somebody to participate. And if you're not going to be participating in that, they just, lose the interest. So it's always important to make the plan for yourself. How do you actually, the strategies to move on? And maybe, Andrew, you could share, because obviously from your coaching experience, like what are the strategies that you give to your clients to move on from these toxic relationships?
Yeah, before I go there, I really have inspired me to share a couple of thoughts. as Bruno said, sometimes it's you've got to focus on yourself, because there's one person you have to live with for the rest of your life, and that is you, and no one else but you. And the problem is this: we all have some past experiences, and obviously they are not a fairy tale, but it's not what happened to you, but what are you going to do with it? So if you're not rebuilding yourself, if you're not able to reconnect to your true self, I call to your self-worth, to your self-confidence, unfortunately, if you are carrying the limitations, or if you see someone else is carrying those limitations around you, then I love to say that, if you don't do the work, if you don't transform yourself, then probably you are going to cut the people who didn't hurt you. You're going to bleed on them, because all of these limiting patterns now becoming a punishment for other people. And I believe maybe it's just a punishment on you now, but you carrying these patterns into every relationship you have. I find these patterns work out across areas of life. I discover them, and the person starts to realize that, ooh, I'm not listened to. I'm a victim in many areas of life. So I believe you deserve, if you're listening to this podcast, you deserve emotional freedom. You must do the work, so you're not wasting your life. What am I saying? Doing the work. I usually say, I'm unorthodox on this market. I have money back guarantee. I say, if you do not find proper help from outside, and proper help, I mean someone who has the balls to give money back if the therapy is not working, if the release work is not working, and don't waste your money, because I have to say, there are people out there, and unfortunately this market has all kinds of, let's say, gurus and specialists, and they happily take your money without delivering the results that you're looking for. So be very specific about what you really want. And I say emotional freedom is that you could be you in any circumstances, in any area of life. Like, that's standard to me. You have so much, let's say, awareness of yourself that you are comfortable going into any conversation about any topic. I build people bulletproof. And if you're not able to do that, then maybe if you find triggers, those little prickles that you find that in certain situations you got that survival emotions are coming up, that, fight or flight, then you still have work to do. Mm-hmm. Because at that point you become reactive. At that point, you're not in the present anymore. Unfortunately, at that point, you're back in the past, reliving pain from the past. So I believe that we've got amazing tools now, and it wouldn't even take years. Normally just, 3 to 6 months, a few sessions sometimes, to clear massive blocks from the past. But if you're carrying them, you could end up wasting a lot of time, a lot of resources, a lot of money. And that was me. I re-experienced, recreated old results of feeling insecure, old results of feeling that I'm not heard, I'm not being listened to, and I never got what I wanted. And that took me decades. So save yourself time and money, and really find probably a good starting point for you. Find someone who actually has results in resolving the problems that you have. Like, it's really elementary school thinking, right? I don't go to legal advice or advices to my dentist, but that's what most people do.
Yeah.
I have this problem.
Absolutely.
I share it with my friends. Well,
Yeah.
they know. Are they in the same pattern actually? So you have a pity party, or are you actually going to? And I say there's amazing professionals out there now. There's a shortcut to resolving anything you want out on the market these days. And you know what? I believe in this new world. You just need to find the specialist who can resolve your specific problem. And I can tell you, your problem is not bigger than most other people's. We are dealing with the same things. If I look at this planet, 80% of the people have I'm not good enough or I'm not enough inkling feelings inside. So you're not the only one. And I say you can resolve this by hiring the right talent. So please don't stop until you find it. It took me $100,000. I would kind of waste it, spending it on seminars, spending it on books, on past life regression. I've done everything under the sun I could, which didn't actually work. Firewalking and Tony Robbins events and Brian Tracy, I've done them all. But they were not probably tailored to my own limiting patterns. And try everything you can, but don't stop until you become this new version of you, where it's not struggle anymore, where
Awesome.
you unlock this new level of freedom of authenticity, because I think you deserve it and you can have that. And I believe you will.
Woo! That's
Sorry.
dope.
Get carried
Awesome.
away.
Awesome. That was amazing. That was amazing.
Yeah, so I wanted to go back. What would be the strategies that we can give people to move on from these toxic relationships, right? And one of them would be just to acknowledge, right? First thing, people have to accept that they are in that toxic relationship, because if they are going to be living in denial, there is no help for them available, and they just basically going to stay and get abused and continue to suffer. So first thing and foremost, acknowledge. Just realize that this is not healthy. This is not the relationship you deserve. This is not somebody who can actually make you happy. And then obviously seek support, like Andrew mentioned. It's interesting how many people are still not aware about the coaches. And something that downloaded to me today, I was thinking, it's funny enough, like we know for sure, like if we have the tooth pain, we go to the dentist. We are not gonna run to our, general doctor for that, right? So we know that there are specialties for any health issue we have. So how come people don't understand that the same help is available when it comes to, coaching? Because literally for anything you have, like if you're going through divorce, there are divorce coaches. If you're going through abuse, there are people who help you to pull you through and to make sure that you survive and start your new living. If you want to become a better parent, there is a parenting coaching. So there are so many divisions. So basically it's all up to us to make that decision, because a lot of times people don't even know how to make decisions for themselves. This is like, the paradox of modern society. A lot of people are so used to others to make the decision for them, to their partner, to their boss, to the news. Everybody decides for themselves but themselves. And that's what the reality, really, this is the reality check, to understand that you are the highest authority on your life. And if not you, who else is going to decide for you? You have to be in charge of yourself and decide, this is toxic. I don't want to stay there anymore. What can I do? What steps can I take? And the first step is to reach out for the support. Look for these professionals who are going to help you to go through that period, because it's very difficult to go it by yourself. And like Andre mentioned, of course you could share with the family member, but what is it going to do for you? I mean, yeah, you get some compassion, some emotional support, but the problem is still going to be there, right? So the point is, seek like the people who really can help you out in this kind of situation, and also set up the boundaries. It's so important, because nobody's going to cross your boundaries when you have them, right? You're not going to allow another person to treat you the way you don't want them to treat you. It's all up to you. Obviously, focus on self-care. Self-care is so important, as Andrew said. Focus on yourself. And that's exactly what we are doing. Actually, this is the focus that we have to maintain for the rest of our life, because we are constantly changing, we are constantly growing. Our belief system is upgrading, and we are changing the operating system that we are running. So it's very important as well to give yourself time. Like I'm with this business of coaching business, I just totally focusing on myself. I just choose me at this point. And I know a lot of people are not happy around it, and this has nothing to do with me, because this is what I want to focus my time, my energy, and this is what makes me alive. Andrea, any other thoughts, or any kind of other support that you can give to the audience?
Absolutely. I do have a free book called How to Discover Your Authentic Self faster than you ever thought possible. It's available on drselfworth.com. That's DOCTOR of selfworth.com. But just to recap, you've really put it nicely. So really become aware, identify that you have an issue, and really do something about it until it's resolved. And if you couldn't resolve it 5 times, then you deserve a decent life. You deserve to be you, be loved and accepted and appreciated to be you. And I believe if you find the right help, it would be the best investment of your life. And that's what happened to me. I wasted a lot of money, and then pretty much a couple of $1,000 has let me give up 16-hour work days. My kids didn't know me. I was not present to them. I was working all the time. My wife wanted to divorce from me. I was at the edge of collapse. My health was deteriorating, and by hiring a specialist, I've now been traveling, for example, 8 months around Europe with my family. But with that emotional freedom, and obviously with the personal brand, sometimes you literally become a no-limit person, because there is only one person to love. That's you. So if you're able to lock on that everybody's going to win, your children, your partner, or your future partner, if you're not able to set this relationship boundaries, as you said, I believe every relationship deserves a try to reset it. It's not working, then you can't waste your time. You can't waste your time, because time is your life, and it's ticking away every day, every hour, every minute. And the problem is this: the pain will increase, and you will end up at the point where you're ready to jump or do something about it. But how much time, how much opportunities, how much fun, how much joy are you missing out on? That's the big question.
Absolutely.
To do something about it now, because there's no tomorrow, and there's no once upon a time. Because you will, and this is what I was talking to about somebody the other day, that unfortunately if your mind is not empowered, and I'm saying self-empowered, that at times requires a certain amount of internal work, inner work, you will probably will not be able to dig yourself out of those subconscious limitations, your subconscious patterns. I believe to do the work yourself, it requires to do external help in the beginning. And yes, when you have momentum, you'll be able to probably get what you want in life and maybe then hire more help. But in the beginning, when your mind is running in circles, replaying the same emotions, you're in a vicious circle. You catch 22. And you deserve more than that, much more than that in life.
That's so well said. And you know what? I just wanted to give the tool to the audience. Just if you're still doubting, this is the right move? Just journalize. Ask yourself, what are the benefits if I move forward, right? If I just decide to leave this toxic relationship, what are the benefits that I'm gaining? And I reassure you, you're gonna have more peace, you're going to have more emotional stability, you're going to be having more freedom, more happiness, and you could continue on that beautiful list. And obviously you deserve that partner that's going to truly make you happy, which until you're in that toxic relationship, you're just blocking yourself from meeting somebody who's really worthy of your time and energy. So always be mindful of that. Bruno?
No, absolutely. You're both right at all points. My personal belief, obviously, like, believe in yourself. Remember that you are not the people that hurt you. You are you, right? I think that's also like a big test. I think it's like you're either gonna be yourself or you're gonna be your pain. You're gonna embody your pain, right? And you're gonna end up doing the same thing to people of the same that was done to you. Because human beings were weak, right? Human beings are weak, and just by the fact that we fear the things we don't see, right? And we shouldn't, because it's if we can see that, technically it shouldn't be important, right? I think it's really the emotion that comes out of it that makes it more important than it is. It's almost like we're feeling the experience without even being in it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we're just feeling what we believe it's going to be. It's not the actual experience. It's just our dark belief about it, right? So yeah, human beings are weak. The best way we can strengthen us is to not be emotionless, but control the emotions, right? Because our emotions can be a weakness or it can be like a really good strength. It just depends on where you drive that energy, right? If you drive that energy to destroy you, then it's your biggest enemy. But if you drive that energy, if you direct that energy towards your own growth, if you know how to channel it, right? For example, you're angry, right? Go have a workout, right? Or go meditate. Every single thing that triggers you is a chance for you to grow, right? Every single problem that appears, every single adversity, challenge, obstacle that appears in your life, it's not for you, it's to make you grow, right? Yes, we suffer, but we grow. And it's the reaction, right? It's like people see you not your way, they see you their way, right? So what they see is not the same thing as you see, and that's why they end up drawing conclusions that are not yours, right? Because that means not sharing the same opinion, right? So it's just one of those things where, like, again, you are not you are you are not what was done to you, right? So don't get attached. As I know, it's easy to talk than to act. In fact, like, I went through like kind of a big toxic moment this past year, and I know, like, I felt it, right? It's like, obviously, again, we're all humans, but we really feel human when things go to Shit. Right. That's when we feel the most human, right? Um, Obviously, the closest feeling to immortality that we have is when we are all over the moon, right? When we don't have problems, right? So, um, yeah, I mean, again, obviously, I'm just repeating myself, but it's good for people to understand that you are not the people who hurt you, you are you, and continue being you, continue shining your light, because um, we need more people. It's not even about like we need more people helping others. It's more like we need more people in the world being themselves, right? That's what we need, because those ones are the ones who make the difference, right? Like
So beautiful.
yeah, the people who are themselves that make the difference. It's the people who are like, yeah, sure, I'm here. Oh yeah, fine. You would never do what I do, but that's all of you. Like we need more people in the world that like they say, screw the weight of the society, screw what my family believes and my friends. I'm gonna be me. You like it, you like it. You don't like it. Well, that's not my problem, my friend. That's on you. Would you ever have the balls to do that? Probably not, right? But that's on you, right? So, like, want it, don't want it. Well, whatever. So, think like bravery and courage. Like whether no matter what type of love it is, even with ourselves, and really having the bravery and the courage and to like be yourself and to go in pursuit of what you want without being a victim, without feeling like a victim, without behaving like a victim, without seeing yourself as a victim, without showing other people that you are also a victim and then you feel like one, right? Because we teach people how to treat us, right? If you behave like a clown, people will treat you like a clown. If you behave like a victim, people will not only not respect you, but people will see you as a victim, right? And we want the love, we want the respect, right? But especially we want the respect, because then it's like people will always walk you over, and yeah.
All right. Thank you so much. We are wrapping up. Hopefully, this was very insightful. Andre, thanks so much for coming. You're welcome anytime. And we'll post the links for Andre. So reach out, get his book, and be
Yep.
blessed. Don't stay in the toxic relationship. Move on and take the charge of your life. All the best.